You know what no one tells you about toxic people? They don't always yell. They don't always lie to your face. Sometimes they're sitting right across from you at dinner. Sometimes they're texting you happy birthday. Sometimes, they're the ones who call themselves your biggest supporters. And yet, something feels off. Something always feels off. You felt it. That slow drain after a conversation. That moment where you hang up the phone and you're just tired. Not sleepy. Tired in a different way. Like something was taken from you that you didn't agree to give. Here's what I've noticed about people who've built real wealth. Not just money, but peace, clarity, time. They handle these people very differently than the rest of us do. They don't argue. They don't post about it. They don't even explain themselves. They just move. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. 7 ways millionaires deal with toxic people, and why the way they do it has very little to do with money, and everything to do with how they protect what actually matters. Here's something most people never learn in school, never hear from their parents, and definitely never see on social media. Your energy is a currency. Not a metaphor. Not a motivational phrase. An actual, spendable, depletable resource, and just like money, once it's gone, you feel it. Think about the last time you had a genuinely draining conversation. Maybe it was someone complaining about the same problem for the 4th time this month, with zero intention of changing anything. Maybe it was someone who subtly questioned every decision you made, not loud enough to call out, but just present enough to leave a mark. You walked away from that interaction and something in you was slower, less sharp, less available for the things that actually matter to you. Now think about the wealthiest, most grounded people you've ever observed, not the loudest ones, not the ones performing success online, the ones who actually have it. There's a stillness to them. A kind of quiet economy in how they operate. They don't spend energy defending themselves to people who've already decided what they think. They don't invest hours in arguments that have no finish line. They treat their attention like a limited fund, because it is. And here's the part that changes everything. Toxic people aren't always evil. Most of them are just stuck. Stuck in patterns, stuck in pain, stuck in a version of themselves they haven't found the courage to leave behind yet. That doesn't mean you have to stay in the room with them while they figure it out. Millionaires understand something early, or learn it the hard way, that proximity is a choice. And every choice has a cost. The question isn't, is this person toxic? The real question is, what does staying close to them cost you, every single day? There's a move that almost nobody talks about because it looks like weakness from the outside. Silence. Not the silence of someone who has nothing to say. The silence of someone who has decided that some conversations simply don't deserve an answer. Millionaires, the ones who've built something real, they've mastered this. When someone comes at them with drama, with manipulation, with that special kind of provocation designed to pull you off your axis, they go quiet. Not cold. Not passive-aggressive. Just quiet. And that silence does something the other person never expected. It removes the fuel. See, toxic dynamics run on reaction. They need your frustration, your defense, your explanation. The moment you stop providing that, the moment you simply don't engage, the whole thing collapses under its own weight. You didn't win the argument. You made the argument irrelevant. That's the second way. The third one is physical, and it's simpler than people want to admit: distance. Not dramatic distance. Not a big announcement, no speech, no goodbye letter. Just less. Less availability. Fewer calls returned. Fewer invitations accepted. A slow, quiet withdrawal that doesn't create a scene but absolutely creates space. People talk about cutting people off like it has to be a moment. A confrontation. A final conversation where everything gets said and the chapter closes cleanly. It almost never works that way. And honestly, it doesn't need to. The most effective exits are the ones that happen gradually. The relationship just gets quieter, less frequent, less central, until one day you realize it's been 3 weeks and you haven't thought about that person once. And you feel lighter for it. That's not cruelty. That's clarity. Let's talk about something that gets misunderstood constantly. Boundaries. Everyone's talking about them. But most people think a boundary is something you announce. A declaration. A warning. This is my boundary and I need you to respect it. And then they wait. For understanding. For acknowledgement. For the other person to finally see it. Here's what millionaires figured out: boundaries aren't conversations. They're decisions. You don't explain a boundary any more than you explain why you locked your front door. You just lock it. And if someone keeps knocking at 2 a.m., you don't open the window to discuss your sleep schedule. You just don't open the door. That's the fourth way. Boundaries without apology. Without lengthy explanation. Without the emotional labor of convincing someone that your limits are reasonable. Because here's the truth: the people who need the most convincing that your boundaries are valid are exactly the people who will never respect them anyway. Now the fifth way is subtler. And honestly, it might be the one that saves you the most pain. Selective transparency. Millionaires are extraordinarily careful about who they share their plans with. Not because they're secretive by nature, but because they've learned, usually through real loss, what happens when you hand your unfinished dreams to the wrong person. There's a specific kind of toxic behavior that doesn't look toxic at all on the surface. It looks like concern. It sounds like advice. Are you sure about that? That's a big risk. I've seen people try that before. It's death by 1,000 doubts. And the worst part? Sometimes it comes from people who genuinely love you. People who are so afraid of their own unlived life that your movement towards something bigger quietly terrifies them. You don't have to explain that either. You just stop sharing certain things with certain people. Not everything needs an audience. Especially not the parts still becoming. There's a moment, you've had it, I've had it, everyone has had it, where someone says something that lands exactly where they intended it to land. A comment about your choices. A joke that isn't quite a joke. A comparison that makes you smaller without technically being an insult. And everything in you wants to respond. Immediately. Loudly. With every piece of evidence you've been quietly collecting that proves them wrong. That impulse is human. It's also a trap. The sixth way millionaires handle toxic people is one of the most underrated skills in existence. They replace reaction with observation. Instead of asking, how do I respond to this, they ask something different. What is this person actually showing me right now? Because here's what nobody tells you about toxic behavior: it's always information. Always. The person who constantly undermines you is showing you their own ceiling. The one who celebrates your failures a little too enthusiastically is showing you how threatened they've been by your progress all along. The one who only calls when they need something is showing you exactly what role you play in their life. None of that requires a response. It requires recognition. When you shift from reacting to observing, something remarkable happens. You stop being a participant in the dynamic and start being a witness to it. And witnesses don't get pulled under. They see clearly. They remember. They make better decisions because they're not operating from a place of wound. This is what emotional maturity actually looks like in practice. Not the absence of feeling, but the discipline of not letting every feeling become an action. Millionaires aren't emotionless. Some of the most feeling people I've ever encountered have built extraordinary things. But they learned, sometimes through complete wreckage, that not every storm deserves your full presence. Some storms you just watch pass. From a distance. From behind glass. Safe, clear, and unshaken. And when it's over, you're still standing exactly where you chose to be. Let's step back for a moment. Because we've been talking about ways to handle toxic people, and all of that matters. But underneath all of it, there's something bigger. Something that doesn't get said enough. The real cost of toxic relationships isn't emotional. It's directional. Think about it this way. Every significant decision you've ever made, the career shift, the business you started or almost started, the relationship you stayed in too long, the one you left too soon, every single one of those decisions was made inside a context. And that context was shaped, more than you probably realize, by the people closest to you. Who was in the room when you were deciding? Whose voice was the loudest in your head when you were doubting yourself at 1 a.m.? Whose approval were you quietly seeking, even when you told yourself you didn't care? Those people didn't just affect your mood. They affected your trajectory. And this is where it connects to money, to wealth, in a way that most financial advice completely misses. The people around you don't just drain your energy. They shape your beliefs about what's possible for you. They set an invisible ceiling that you spend years bumping your head against without even knowing it's there. There's a pattern with people who've built real financial independence. Almost universally, at some point in their journey, they went through a season of profound loneliness. Not because they were antisocial, but because they outgrew something, a group, a mindset, a version of normal, before they had anything new to replace it with. That gap is uncomfortable. It feels like loss. And most people, when they hit that gap, retreat back to the familiar. Back to the people who drain them, because at least those people are known. The ones who keep going through that gap, quietly, without announcement, without guarantee, those are the ones who eventually build something different. Not because they were harder. Not because they were smarter. Because they were willing to be uncomfortable and unknown for long enough to become something the familiar couldn't contain anymore. That's not a strategy. That's a choice. Made in the dark. Made alone. Made over and over again until the light starts to show. If you've made it here, to this point in the video, all the way through, I want to say something directly to you. Hit that subscribe button. Come be part of this community. We put out content like this every single week, real conversations, no fluff, no performance. Just things worth thinking about. Things that actually move the needle. And honestly, if you're the kind of person who watches a video like this all the way through, you're exactly who this channel is built for. Someone who's done with surface level. Someone who wants to go deeper. Now, here's the thing about everything we've talked about today. Most people here deal with toxic people and they think it ends with removal. Cut them off. Create distance. Protect your energy. And yes, all of that is true, all of that matters. But there's a seventh way. And it might be the most important one. Replacement. Not replacement in a cold, transactional sense. But the intentional, deliberate act of building something in the space you just cleared. Because here's what nobody warns you about when you start removing toxic relationships from your life. The silence that follows is louder than you expected. And silence, if you're not careful, gets filled with doubt. With second guessing. With maybe I was too harsh, maybe I gave up too soon. The antidote to that isn't more removal. It's addition. Finding, slowly, carefully, without rushing, people who are building something. People who ask good questions. People who tell you the truth without cruelty. People whose presence leaves you more, not less. That kind of person is rare. You won't find them everywhere. But you find them by becoming the kind of person they want to be around. And that, quietly, is the whole game. You don't just protect your energy. You redirect it. Into work that matters. Into relationships that multiply. Into a version of yourself that the old environment simply couldn't have produced. The seventh way isn't a tactic. It's a philosophy. Remove what diminishes. Replace with what expands. And then, watch what becomes possible. Here's what I want to leave you with. Everything we talked about today, the silence, the distance, the boundaries, the observation, the replacement, none of it is about becoming cold. None of it is about building walls so high that nothing can reach you anymore. It's about something quieter than that. It's about learning to take yourself seriously. Because that's what toxic relationships ultimately attack. Not your schedule. Not your bank account. Not even your confidence, really. They attack your sense that your time, your peace, your direction, that those things are worth protecting. And the moment you start protecting them, genuinely, without apology, without performing it for anyone, something shifts. Not overnight. Not dramatically. But it shifts. You start making decisions from a different place. You start choosing differently who gets access to you. You start feeling, maybe for the first time in a long time, like your life has a direction that belongs to you. That's not a destination. It's a practice. Quiet, daily, unglamorous. The millionaires we talked about today, the ones who've actually built something real, they didn't get there because they were tougher or luckier or born into the right rooms. They got there because at some point they decided that their becoming was worth defending. And they stopped letting people who were going nowhere have a say in where they were headed. There's a line that has stayed with me for years. From Proverbs 4 verse 23. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Not some of what you do. Everything. Your relationships. Your decisions. Your money. Your peace. Your future. It all flows from what you allow in. So guard it. Not with fear. With wisdom. If this video meant something to you, hit that subscribe button, share it with 5 people who need to hear this, and drop a comment below. Tell me something real. What's one relationship in your life you've been afraid to create distance from? And while you're down there, tell me what you want me to cover next. What's the conversation you haven't been able to find anywhere else? I'll be here. Same time. Same honesty. See you in the next one.